Welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup, hosted by Dr. Jeff Poplarski and my dad, PGA golf professional Frank Darby. Let's go USA.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup. This is going to be an exciting venture. My name is Frank Darby and my co-host is Dr. Jeff Poplarski. So Jeff, welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, really exciting, Frank. You know, before we get into our podcast here for a few minutes, introductory stories and introductory items that we're going to discuss, man, I think this is the true definition of a home field advantage. Bethpage Black, right? You're talking about coming to Yankee Stadium and winning a game. How is it going to be for the European team coming to Bethpage Black with that home field advantage? It's going to be really exciting. And we're going to share a lot of stories. What do you think about that home field advantage story, Frank?
Yeah, you know, I think it's definitely going to be a home field advantage, but it's going to be mostly because of the fans. And if you've got talent like the Europeans do, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And the reason why I'm saying that is one of the issues that happened at in France is that the United States didn't take a trip. You know, they didn't see the golf course until they got there, and they only got to play it 3 or 4 times. I think the issue with Bethpage Black is that this is not just the European Tour now. This is the PGA Tour. All of the players on the European Tour play on the PGA Tour. So they're going to be in this area right here. You know, they're going to be in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Cricket Club for the truest PGA Tour stop. And then they're also going to be at the Travelers, which is held up in Hartford in June. So I think these guys are going to be very familiar with the Black golf course and the whole Bethpage scenario. So yes, I think the fans will play a big part, kind of like going to a baseball game. Or Jeff, you know it better than anybody, how much are the fans in hockey games in Game 7? So it makes such a big deal about that home. You know, the home field thing. I think these Europeans are very, very strong, as we're seeing right now from their winning on the PGA Tour this year so far.
Yeah, great thoughts there. You know, this is our first show. Obviously, this is an introduction. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a sports chiropractor and also a sports performance specialist. My office is based on Long Island. I've also been the Performance and Recovery Director for the United States Golf Association since 2002, working 46 of their championships, including 20 U.S. Opens. We do have a lot of certifications from Titleist Performance Institute. I happen to be a medical professional, fitness professional, junior coach, power coach, and golf professional for TPI, Titleist Performance Institute. And probably one of the good things that I do is I'm also the golf performance director at Bethpage. So I'm there, you know, quite a few times during the week, and I want to report on what's going on at Bethpage as far as the building of this facility. Ultimately, they're building a city to entertain 40,000 people for, you know, 4 or 5 days during September, 22nd, 23rd to September 28th. But I also teach sports management at Farmingdale State College. I use a book called Operationally Speaking, which was created by Frank Bussey. He was our director of operations for the United States Golf Association, which is an in-depth look on how you would get a Ryder Cup or a PGA championship, from the political involvement to the community involvement, how you secure it, how you feed the people, how you bring people from around the world coming here to Long Island. So I'm going to share those experiences based on that book in class that I teach at Farmingdale State. So Frank, back to you. Just a little information or bio related to you.
Let's see. I've been a member of the PGA in the Metropolitan section for 42 years right now. And I've got, the one great thing about being a PGA member is I've done a lot of different things. So I was an assistant at a couple of great clubs on Long Island. I was a head professional at 2 places, Nissaquah Golf Club and Colonial Springs for just about 15 years. And I was also the golf coach at St. John's University for 23 years. So luckily there, I was able to recruit, and Keegan Bradley, the current Ryder Cup captain, played for me at St. John's. So I think that was just an unbelievable experience for me to have some quality kids on my team, including Andrew Swoboda and Ryan McCormick, who definitely PGA Tour players and are still just sensational players as well. So, I just love the whole idea of Bethpage hosting it. They've had 3 majors there again. They've had the 2019 PGA Championship and 2 U.S. Opens, and along with maybe 20 New York State Opens that I was the setup guy. So I was in charge of pretty much everything that was going to happen on the golf course during those 3 days. So I got to see the Black, inside and out, and I know the whole locations, and sometimes I have some dreams at night where they just can't finish a whole location out there. The Black is such a demanding, tough golf course, and I can't tell you how I haven't been doing it for the last 6 or 7 years, and the pressure is off. I'm a lot more relaxed right now, but I just think it's going to be such a great venue for everything that's going to go on here. This will be probably the greatest event that New York State has ever hosted. I mean, think about, like I said, we were talking about the fan base right there. I think the fan base is going to behave. Jeff, don't you agree that us New Yorkers get a little bit of a bad reputation for just screaming and yelling and not behaving on golf courses and in big venues for major events?
Yeah, listen, we do have that reputation being tough in New York, but I will tell you this, we're very educated here in sports in New York, especially golf, and we really respect good golf play. So I think they'll come out in full force. Obviously, it will be a home field advantage as we discussed. But Frank, going back to you, I don't think there's another person around that has the experiences that you have with Bethpage Black, setting up those New York State Opens for 20 years. And I don't think there's a coach in America that has 3 PGA Tour players that came from your program, including your 2014 Big East Championship too. So I'm so pumped to be teamed up with you because my experiences really with the body swing connection. We have a lot of experiences with that today together. We put that together. I think it's going to be a great show. We do have a sponsor, Frank. As you know, it's the Tunnel to Towers. I would like to thank the Tunnel to Towers in a very big way. Again, they're sponsoring this podcast, but if you don't know the history of the Tunnel to Towers, Steven Siller, who was a New York City fireman, it's a golf story, was actually going to play golf with his 3 brothers, Russell, Frank, and George. He had a scanner in his car on 9/11, and he heard something was going down in Manhattan, lower Manhattan. He told his brothers, I got to get back to my firehouse. I'm not going to play golf with you today. So he goes to his firehouse. They were all gone already in Brooklyn. He decided to go to the mouth of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and he ran through the tunnel, which I believe is 1.8 miles. He lost his life on that day, but the Silla family are just so amazing. They're just amazing people. They said, you know what, we have to turn this negative situation into a positive one, and they created the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and they have a run every September, the last Sunday in September, where they trace the footsteps of this American hero, and that's the Tunnel to Towers. Just a few things about the Tunnel to Towers. To date, 1,500 mortgage-free homes have been given out to our American heroes. So if we have a military person that potentially loses their legs, becomes blind, catastrophically injured, we'll build them a smart home and give it to them. If a police officer or a first responder unfortunately passes away defending our country, we'll build a mortgage-free home for them too. We do have a 4-star charity rating with Charity Navigator, which is kind of the gold standard of evaluating charities in the United States of America. And 93% of the monies coming in for the Tunnel to Towers goes directly to their programs. And the last thing is over $1 billion in donations since the inception in 2002. So we ask our listeners if you could please go on t2t.org, and you could actually donate just $11 a month. We have a national campaign for their efforts helping America's heroes. So thank you, Frank Siller, and all the people that work for the Tunnel to Towers for sponsoring the podcast.
Yeah, it's an honor to be associated with Tunnel of Towers. And hey, listen, there's no better organization watching out for our veterans and our first responders and our police and firemen as well. So, like I said, it's an honor to be involved with Frank Silla.
So let's hear a message from our sponsor, and let's just take a little break. All right, here we are back with the road to the Ryder Cup, and Frank, I want to ask you some questions about Bethpage. How is Bethpage going to hold up for the Ryder Cup? I'm sure you got a lot of stories you could tell us about Bethpage, but let's hear your insight about the course itself.
Yeah, I think that Keegan's made a couple of comments about keeping the rough down right there. Letting guys. I'm a big believer in on course setups. When you get the rough as high as the U.S. Open is sometimes, I don't like seeing guys like maybe make a pretty good swing and drive it in the rough and hit a wedge out and then not. These guys are so good with their wedges. They make more pars and hitting wedges from 60 yards out. I'd rather see it where the grass is a little bit kind of funny in some spots and there's a little indecision about what they need to hit in here. Now, the one thing about Bethpage is if you do drive it in the rough and you're a little suspect about what the distance is or what the carry is, a lot of these greens are elevated. So you're hitting shots over deep bunkers. You don't really get a lot of great looks at hole locations. They're kind of hidden behind some of the Tillinghast deep bunkers out there as well. A lot has to do with what happens with the wind out there, too. So when we were running the State Open, our window was really, really big. I mean, we started at 6:30 in the morning off 1 and 10th tee. And, in the morning, you usually don't get a lot of wind, so the golf course plays, okay. Well, once about 2 o'clock starts and we're getting the tail end of that second wave going out, the wind starts kicking up, and a lot of the times it's into your face coming down the stretch. Bethpage is kind of like those courses over in Europe where they host the Open over there. You go out and you come back in. So a lot of the times back down the stretch, once you turn into like number 9 and 10, it becomes a little bit of a nightmare right there for the next 5 or 6 holes until you cross the road. You're going to hear that term an awful lot. Crossing the road just means that you're finishing the 14th hole and you're crossing a road that bisects the Black Golf Course in Bethpage, and then you get to play 4 pretty good finishing holes on 15, 16, 17, and 18. Number 17 is the signature hole, and one thing we need to pray is that a lot of the matches go to 17, because if you're familiar with Ryder Cup matches, and like I said, there'll be 12 matches on Friday and Saturday between foursomes and alternate shots. And then Sunday will be the singles matches. A lot of the times the matches end on 16 and 15.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So we need 17 to be in the look right there. Personally, I think they should just skip 16 and make certain you go to 17 so we get that great hole in there as well. But only kidding on that. But like I said, I think the Black, it's a good time of the year in September right there, too. You're going to get probably 70-degree weather there at the tail end. And let's hope there's not a lot of rain out there because that golf course plays very difficult when it's a little windy and wet out there, too.
Yeah, Frank, great point, because on 15 and 16, there's going to be a corporate hospitality village on that hole. And I looked at the prices on the corporate hospitality tents on 18. And then I looked at the prices on 16 and 15, and it was actually more money for 15 and 16. And the comment was that a lot of the matches will end on 15 and 16. That's almost like the 18th hole, and that's why the prices are a little bit higher. The village, by the way, on 15 and 16 are going to have 2 front doors. So you could go on one side and watch 15 and go to the back door, another porch, and watch 16, which is actually a pretty cool setup. Frank, being the golf performance director at Bethpage, one of the angles that I would like to bring in is I'm there every day. I'm kind of on the ground, and the last few months, it's been so exciting to see what's going on, the development there. A couple of weeks ago, I saw some cars pull up, the courtesy cars with the Ryder Cup logos on them. I get to see the foundations of these corporate tents are going up. The clubhouse, they're painting, they're putting new floors up. Every day there seems to be something going on with Bethpage, and I would like to report that on the road to the Ryder Cup, all of those scenarios that we're seeing. I had an opportunity, besides being the golf performance director, I have had an opportunity to walk the Black yesterday. I'm chairing a committee called the Walking Marshals. I have 75 people on that committee. 6 to 8 people are going to follow the groups inside the ropes. So we wanted to measure the course and look at different angles on how we would basically communicate from hole to hole. So I have a trivia question for you, Frank. From the back of every tee to the back of every green and the walking distance from the greens to the tee, how many miles? Bethpage Black.
I don't know. That's never been good in numbers. I know it was about 7,400 yards long, but you're right. It's not about the yardage in playing. It's about walking around that place, and I would say 7.5 miles.
That's a good guess. It was actually 6.08 miles. We walked around with a little, one of those roller things. And by the time I personally got to hole 15, I was saying to myself, wow, I just walked this and I'm exhausted. I didn't even want to go up 15, 16, and 17, so I kind of shortcutted it to 18. And then you have to hit shots, precision shots with that walk with the crowd. Wow, the pressure is enormous on some of these players.
Yeah, it really is. The one thing that, these old-time golf course architects like Tillinghast and McDonald and all these guys, there was a method to their madness. And what they all like to do, and like I said, we're in a hotbed of just great golf courses. A lot of the golf in America started in this northeast quadrant. So if you play a Tillinghast layout, he's known for starting it out nice and easy. You look at number 1 over here. Number 2, you can make a birdie. Number 3 depends on the hole location. You've got a reachable par 5 in number 4. Well, that's about it. Then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose after that. You've got one of the hardest par 4s in America in number 5. And then all of a sudden, he's got his little nuances. He might throw something in here and there. But then all of a sudden, down the stretch, it is really, you're hanging on for dear life. And I think he really punishes you when you're standing there on the 15th tee, even par, trying to get it in, and all of a sudden you've been out there for 4 hours and disaster hits on one of those finishing holes. So, like I said, it was fortunate that you were out there yesterday and seeing that golf course, but it is not just a hard walk if you hit it in the middle of every fairway. It becomes brutal if you're in the rough and the high grass. And, hey, just getting out of a bunker, Jeff, they need you to just give them some training when they get in and some rehab.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I sent out an email to my staff of 75 people, the Walking Marshals, and I'm like, listen, you better come to New York in shape because they're going to have to do multiple rounds, these volunteers. They're going to have to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe a couple of practice rounds. So I'm trying to get them in shape. I made some recommendations what they could do for their body to prepare for the Ryder Cup. But, Frank, guest-wise, since we're on Bethpage, I know we're going to have some people from Bethpage, the golf course staff. I know we're going to invite people from the state. I spoke to Scott Matson already up at Bethpage. I talked to some of the political involvement, from the governor's office to the county executive's office to try to get them on as guests to talk about the impact that this event's going to happen to Long Island. But besides that, Frank, Ryder Cup, PGA of America, we have to talk a little bit about them. I know you're a member for 43 plus years. They're the host site, the PGA section, right? The Metropolitan section. Maybe some thoughts about the Met section and the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, I've been proud to be a member of the Metropolitan section my whole life, and it is just a great, great, great section. Luckily I work for just a great executive director in Charlie Robson. He was, there for pretty much my entire 28 years. Also worked with the current executive director, Jeff Voorhees, who has followed him and is doing a really, really good job. So the Mets section will be involved, like in some logistics. They'll be handling the range, which is a great job to have. I mean, we were there for the PGA Championship, and I know that I think that volunteer base signed up pretty quickly just to be around all these great players and to have access to something as well. But hey, the Mets section is one of the best sections in the country. We have 43 sections throughout the United States, and we're pretty much in the forefront of having just sensational players, wonderful golf professionals, and the Mets section really does a great job on educating all the associates and the PGA members into becoming really fine PGA golf professionals.
Yeah, we're certainly going to invite some of the PGA section pros. Jeff, like you said, Charlie Robson would be a great guest also. And also inviting some of the Ryder Cup staff. I've already gotten some emails out to them to see if they could come on. So we're going to have a whole group of different guests on the road to the Ryder Cup. We're going to have about 30, 35 shows before the Ryder Cup basically comes late September of this year. So our guests are going to be pretty impressive. And, we'd like you to tune in and follow, and share on Facebook, X, Twitter. Also, we have a YouTube channel to the road to the Ryder Cup. So you can find us on all the social media platforms. We'd appreciate it again if you follow, and also share.
Yeah, we're going to have a number of people. We'll have a lot of the media coming on. And like I said, I think it's all about the phrase, the road to the Ryder Cup. Well, that road to the Ryder Cup has started a while right now, and we're going to kind of bring in some stories about how the European Tour is looking, what's the standings right now on the United States Ryder Cup team too, and we'll give you some websites that you can follow along, because it's going to be a really interesting year. How tight it's going to get here down the stretch. The Ryder Cup selection ends at the part of the FedEx Cup at the BMW Cup this year. So they'll be battling, and we're going to get to see, 6 automatic berths, and then Keegan will get to pick the next 6. So that's always a very shaky little area there, trying to pick 6 guys to represent, the rest of that team as well. But I know Keegan Bradley is going to do just a phenomenal job. And hey, listen, I'm rooting that he has a little bit of an issue with deciding on whether he's on that team or not, because that would be pretty exciting, and that would be history from, I think there was one player captain way back as well. So hey, listen, Jeff, it's great being with you, and like I said, I think we're between the two of us, I think you're going to hear a lot of interesting stories and statistics, and like I said, you're there all the time. We'll get to see what's happening at Bethpage, and again, we're going to take a look at the road to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, sure. Final thoughts from my end, and I've been saying this from the beginning. They're saying that America's course is Bethpage Black. NBC has stated that the Ryder Cup is going to be America's sporting event in 2025. Keegan Bradley is going to be, Captain America. They're already saying that statement. And then we have behind us America's charity, which is the Tunnel to Towers, which we are so grateful for them to be the sponsor of this podcast. So we're going to release our show every Monday or Tuesday. We're going to film, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and get our show out to all those social media platforms as we just discussed on Mondays or Tuesdays, the latest. So God bless you all, and have all a great week. And we do have, Frank, 182 days. We have the countdown clock to one of the most anticipated sporting events in the history of New York.
Hey, listen, I'm counting the days, and again, look forward to being a part of the road to the Ryder Cup.